All right. This particular segment of the Roland Martin Show goes directly to why I have a problem with these black Republicans, or the majority of them. Okay. This segment has to do with Donald Trump picking Steve Bannon as his chief political strategist and counselor, and picking Rance Priebus as his chief of staff. Okay. If you go back in history over the last couple of presidencies, you will note that chief of staffs basically come and go, but the president's principal advisor, those people normally are there from start to finish of each president's stay in office. In President Obama's case, it was was and is Valerie Jarrett. She has been there from start to finish. She is his chief advisor and counselor. I forget the person that was in there for Bush, but it's been indicated that he was there throughout the entire Bush presidency. So what Donald Trump has done is he's picked Rance Priebus, who is going to handle the nuts and the bolts of getting along between Trump and Congress for the most part. But Steve Bannon is going to be the one that's there basically whispering in Trump's ear, and he's going to be the last person that Trump speaks to at night and the first person he speaks to in the morning. Now, the reason that I'm saying what I'm saying is, if you don't know who Steve Bannon is, and the right is already spinning, oh, he was this, he had this big career advising naval officers, and he was one of the managing partners of Goldman Sachs, but they stop at that point. They never mention Breitbart. They never mention Breitbart. And Steve Bannon had a lot, he had control over Breitbart. Let's just say, call it for what it is. Breitbart is a racist, sexist, anti-Semitic organization. There is no dispute about that. And this was the man that was running it. So for this racist, sexist, anti-Semitic person to be sitting at the table right next to the President of the United States sends a message. Now, one thing about the Jews, when they see a problem, they do not have any issue with calling it out. Now, the Anti-Defamation League has called this out. Various other high-powered Jewish organizations have registered their displeasure and more about Bannon's role in the administration. Funny thing about it, Democrats, black Democrats anyway, are upset about this. But check out the position of the two black Republicans. Spencer Overton, who is the gentleman that's going to be in the middle of the panel, and Shermichael Singleton. I kind of like Shermichael Singleton, but these guys are afraid to call a spade, and yeah, I did say spade, to call a spade a spade. They cannot allow the words to escape their lips that this guy shouldn't be there. They are into this compromise bullshit And that's exactly what it is. Steve Bannon should be nowhere near this administration. Steve Bannon is a white supremacist. He's a white nationalist. And all that, his appointment as Trump's chief counselor says is that America has become or is becoming just like a lot of countries around the world. France is doing it. Venture to say that even Great Britain is starting to lean that way. Hungary is doing it. Various countries around the world. This is a problem. This is a major problem. And it's even more of a problem that these two black Republicans can't recognize it and call it out. Here's a segment from the show.
Folks, yesterday also big news. Donald Trump picked Reince Priebus, chair of the Republican National Committee, to be his chief of staff. But the bigger news is his decision to name Steve Bannon his senior counselor and chief West Wing strategist. Bannon, of course, the chairman of Breitbart, a website that really aligned themselves with white supremacists and white nationalists. His ex-wife in a courtroom said that he also was anti-Jewish. Statements have poured in condemning his appointment from the Anti-Defamation League, from AIPAC was also as well. And so folks are asking the question, what in the world is going on with Steve Bannon being in the White House? I want to go to my panel right now. We have here, we have Wilmer Leon, Sirius XM radio host, political scientist as well, Spencer Overton, president of the Joint Center for Political and Economic Studies, and Shermichael Singleton, political consultant at Singleton Strategies. Folks.
All right, so just to recap, the guy in the center is a Republican. That's Spencer Overton. And the guy on the right is Shermichael Singleton. He's also a Republican strategist.
If you look at the statement that was released, Bannon was mentioned first.
Right.
And normally when the president picks a chief of staff, that's considered the second most powerful position in the White House. He mentions Bannon first, lays out that Bannon and Priebus will be equals in this White House. Now, it's interesting watching all the media reaction. Some saying, oh, Bannon is controversial. They're mentioning alt-right. The reality is, Steve Bannon is, for many, one of the leaders of this so-called alt-right, which is really white supremacist, white nationalists. Shermichael, I want to start with you. What does it say that Donald Trump will pick a clear and undeniable white nationalist as his chief strategist?
You know, I had some conversations last night with a couple of folks who are African Americans who know Mr. Bannon quite well. Armstrong happens to be one of them.
Armstrong Williams is a stupid ass, okay? Talking to Armstrong Williams is basically like talking to the wind, because that guy doesn't know his ass from a hole in the ground. And he was one of the principal reasons why Ben Carson went down the toilet as fast as he did, because when Ben Carson brought him into his campaign, everything went south. So Armstrong Williams, I have absolutely zero respect for him.
And a couple other friends that worked at the RNC that know him well, and their personal thoughts was that they actually liked him. I've never met him, so I can't make an opinion about someone that I have yet to meet. But if you recall, Karl Rove was George W. Bush's senior strategist, and arguably had probably more influence on his administration than his chiefs of staff throughout his 8 years. So I don't think...
So, okay, so that just makes the further point that Karl Rove was Bush's chief counselor. He stayed with Bush the entire time, and you just said it. He had more influence on Bush than his chiefs of staff. Translation, Steve Bannon is going to have more influence than Reince Priebus.
If there's anything unusual about this.
But here's the difference, and I get that particular perspective there. But Ben Shapiro, a conservative who worked for Breitbart, he talked about how the comments that Bannon would make, how Breitbart became a repository of white hate. Michelle Fields, who was the reporter for Breitbart, who was snatched, if you will, by Corey Lewandowski. Breitbart, led by Steve Bannon, took Lewandowski's side. She later resigned. This is a woman who is a conservative. And so the people these are white conservatives who have said what this guy is like on the inside running that organization.
You're judged by the company that you keep. And what this appointment or nomination or selection does to me is validate the hyperbolic, racist, bigoted language that Donald Trump based his campaign on. This is angry, these are angry white men. When he talks about we've lost America, what he's talking about is the browning of America. And he's bringing in people, not only Bannon, but also Newt Gingrich, talking about Barack Obama as a Mau Mau president. Donald Trump is the guy who rang the bell and championed the cause of President Obama not being born in this country. So I don't understand how anybody can question the racist, bigoted narrative.
So do we question the racist, bigoted narrative of Bill Clinton when he made the statement?
See, and that's what pisses me the fuck off all the time. These motherfuckers turn around, and when you are nailing their asses, they want to turn around and deflect. Bill Clinton ain't got nothing to do with running this country for the next 4 years, okay? We are talking about something that is going to affect us for the next 4 years, okay? And this dumbass, okay, wants to try to equivocate Bill Clinton's behavior when he did make what a lot of people consider racist comments. I'm not even going to try to defend that because he did, okay? He did. Bannon is fucking worse. He is worse, okay? He is overt. At least Bill Clinton, it came out, and he kept this shit pretty much covert. Bannon with Breitbart is overt, okay? He is giving license to all these motherfuckers rolling around the country to do the shit that they're doing. So Shermichael Singleton, in my opinion, you just fucked that up by trying to spin away from something that, you know, a legitimate conversation that people are having about what is going to go on.
In South Carolina about President Obama.
Bill Clinton's
Bill
Clinton's name.
One second. No,
I'm bringing it.
No, 1 second. No. That's real simple. Yes, and we did.
I know you did.
No, but here's the point, Spencer. This is a guy who is going to be the chief strategist, the senior counselor to the President of the United States.
Roland, there is a battle going on in terms of things being up in the air in terms of transition in this new administration. It happens all the time. We look at administration, we think it's monolithic. It's different factions here. And this, I think, was a compromise. It was a compromise in terms of putting Reince in one place and Steve Bannon in another place. So we've got two factions.
Okay. He may be right that this was a compromise. There are some things that you do not compromise on, and this was one of them. You do not compromise by having a white supremacist in the White House. You don't compromise on that.
Factions that are
But
there.
Spencer, I get the factions.
Right.
But what does it say about an individual who white conservatives have made perfectly clear about his white nationalist bent?
That is definitely a part of his faction and part of his organization. There's no doubt. But
that should be the focus. It's the ideological issue.
Okay, I agree that that's important. I also think that it's important for us to have black Republicans, black conservatives in the room who are authentic to the African American community, but who also have conservative principles and who are there speaking for and a part of the conversation.
But we're not.
See, what he just said is a ton of bullshit. Why is it bullshit? Oh, we're going to have some black Republicans in the room. Them being in the room don't mean shit, okay? Because the person that's going to have the last word and is going to have the major say-so is basically going to negate anything that they say. He's going to negate anything that they say. So them for you to say, yeah, it's important for us to be in the room. Yeah, okay, I'll give you that. It's important for you to be in the room. It's important for your voice to be heard in the room. It's important for your voice to have weight in the room. And with Steve Bannon being in the room, you might as well just sit down and shut up.
We've got to be in the room.
No, this is white nationalism.
So you don't want black people in the room?
No, that's not the
I'm just
point.
asking.
That's not the point. This is nationalism, man.
It is. You're
This is
absolutely right.
racism,
You're
man.
absolutely-
This is
you're
bigotry,
absolutely-
man.
and-
And it goes well beyond this country. We're talking
okay.
about how are we going to be perceived internationally.
So do we take marbles and just retreat for 4 years as black folks?
Oh, absolutely not. But when we start talking about personalities and we ignore the ideology, that's what we are doing.
No one's saying ignore the ideology.
Okay, but
That's exactly what you're saying, is ignore the ideology, because this guy is going to be the guy that's going to be forming Trump's ideology, and he's a goddamn racist. He's a white nationalist.
I ask you this question here, and it's interesting. Should we stop? Should we? Like, I've been seeing this. Many other journalists say, no, we're not going to call this alt-right. We're going to call it exactly what it is. This is white supremacy, white nationalism. Why? Why does the media play the game of alt-right? This wonderful, nice, this created phrase?
because
so
they
that
want to make
softens what
it
is.
palatable. They want to make white nationalism palatable. And nobody wants to sit down and honestly say that America has selected not only an admitted sexual predator, but an admitted white racist to run the
What
country.
was interesting, again, the ADL came out very aggressively against Steve Bannon. So
The ADL's the Anti-Defamation Defamation League.
or should say APAC is extremely concerned.
APAC is another. It's trying to remember what the initial for. Anyway, it's a pro-American Jewish organization. It's probably even bigger than the Anti-Defamation League and more influential.
About a guy where his ex-wife is on the record as saying he did not like Jews at the school their children attended. That's problematic, Shermichael, for somebody who literally is advising the President of the United States in 2016.
I understand that, but people should keep in mind he's not going to be the only person advising the president. You have Reince Priebus. You're going to have a.
And that's. He's not going to be the only person advising the president. He's going to be the most influential person advising the president. Hell, you could go get a page off of out of any office that could say something that would be considered advice to the president. This guy is going to be making policy. Okay, so for you to try to spin this crap that he's not going to be the only person advising the president, this is the guy that the president is going to look to first and foremost, and he is going to have the last word that goes in the president's ear. So the rest of that, what you're saying, is bullshit.
Other senior advisors, you're going to have Kellyanne Conway, you're going to have cabinet members, and so I think it's naive.
Kellyanne Conway, he's not going to listen to that bitch. She's a woman. He's a misogynist. He is not going to. Oh, please.
I think that Steve Bannon.
So are we saying
going to be the only influence
so are you saying
on President-elect Trump?
We're cool with the white nationalists advising the President of the United States?
What I am saying is that it is naive to have the presumption that he's going to be the only person advising the
He
president.
shouldn't be anywhere in the room.
Should he? To Women's point, should he be advising the President?
Nowhere in the room.
That's a decision that the president-elect.
No.
can make.
I'm asking you.
that.
I'm asking you.
See, and that's the spin. He just asked him if he should be in the room, and he don't want to answer the goddamn question.
President-elect.
Spencer,
So I don't have an opinion on that.
should he be advising the President of the United States?
I'm glad he's not chief of staff.
What is wrong with this? I don't get this. What is it that you guys can't see about a white nationalist sitting right next to the President of the United
I'm not
States?
saying I endorse it. I'm saying there was a battle, and Steve Bannon could have easily been the chief of staff.
Let me do this here, folks. Congressman, let's go on to what's happening with the Democrats.
All right, so bottom line is Shermichael Singleton lost his balls, and the guy next to him, Spencer Overton, I don't know if he had any.